Alright. Moment of truth. Reed number 1. So after soaking your reeds, then it's time to play on it. You want to listen to what it sounds like. Is it perfect? Is it soft, fuzzy, gross? Like I said, you can put, if it's like really, really great, you could put a check plus on it. If it's fuzzy, write fuzzy on it. Something to keep track of the reed. All right, so let's see what this reed sounds like. I'm going to start by just trying to get a note, see if it plays. Alright, so it plays. So I'm going to do a scale. It's all going to be slurred. I'm really happy with the way that sounds. Now we're going to do some articulation. It articulates really well. I'm liking the articulation. Let's see what it sounds like in the bottom register. Nice. Throat tones. They sound like throat tones. Let's see what they sound like further up. What about altissimo? Like, overall, pretty good, like, over the whole range of the clarinet. Speaks really well. Articulation's pretty crisp. This is a really good one, actually. So I'm going to go ahead. I just had my pencil. This happens like 8 times a day. So I'm going to go ahead, put a check plus. I don't know if you can see that, but can you see that? That's right there, right there. Check plus. So check plus, I'm going to put this in the number 4 slot. That is my number 4 check plus reed. That just happened to be one of the V12 reeds, if it matters. Let's try a non-V12. Let's try a regular blue box. So once you mark it, like, you basically just go through and you do it to the rest of the reeds. So after noodling around on this, I know that this is a little bit of a harder reed. I'm gonna put a check on it because it's not fuzzy and it doesn't have bad tone quality. It just needs to be played more. And like that's like the harsh reality of if a reed is too hard, you just need to play it more. Let's go back to a V12. Let's see how this guy's doing. Also, if you're a professional clarinet player or an amateur clarinet player or someone who strongly disagrees with anything that I'm saying, please know that I don't care. We all have different ways of doing our things. If you're a student watching this and if your teacher does something completely different, I also don't care. This is a way to rotate reeds. I don't do this all the time, but this is what's been most effective for me. It's the easiest way to, I think, determine what reeds work and a good way to keep track of them. So that's just a little disclaimer. So this also has an airy quality. Doesn't play super well. Yeah, not crazy about this, but again, I know that it just needs to be played on. And that's like I'm going to put this one as a check to check as well. So that's another thing to keep in mind is if you have a particularly hard reed or just a reed that you get a lot of resistance, you're not going to want to play it. It's going to really suck to play it. But it's the only reed, but it's the only way that reed is going to be playable. And actually, it'll, like, by rotating your reeds, it actually, like, extends out the life of your reeds. Like, your reeds just last longer because you're not just playing on one until it dies, and then you have to scramble and find another one and play one right out of the box and hope that it works, and then it does, and then it's perfect, and then the next day you go to play on it again and it sucks. It's like, yeah, your read's gonna change overnight. It happens. Why do people sing when they're like preparing something? Ah! So this read is awesome. Not quite as easy to play as the first one, but not as hard to play as the other two. So I'm going to give that a check plus, because I could easily play a gig on that, no problem. Okay, so none of these reads sucked. What happens if you get a read that sucks? I don't know. Let's try a read that sucks. So the tone quality on here blows. Articulation sucks. It's fuzzy. I've actually tried to play on this plenty of times. I've given it enough chances. I think this one might be dead. So the process that I went through with those 4 brand new reeds, do that for as many reeds as you want. A handful, a few, the whole box, half a box, whatever you feel is necessary. The reeds will change over time. So those 4 reeds might be completely different when I play on them tomorrow. I'm sitting down to practice. I've got these 4 reeds. All right. Number one was a check plus. All right. So I'm going to warm up on that. I'm going to do my long tones. Yeah. I'm going to do my long tones. That takes about 15-20 minutes. I'm going to use that reed. Take it off, put it away. Take out the second reed. That reed's a little harder to play on. There's a little bit more resistance. So I'm going to, what's the next thing I do after my long tones? I do my scales. I actually do. So I'm going to play through all my scales, all my major and minor scales. Maybe I'll do some arpeggios too. Who knows? But I'm going to use that harder reed. My scales might not be as easy because I'm using more air, because the harder reed takes more air, because there's more resistance. So, like, the scales aren't going to be as fun as they normally are. Because scales are so much fun to play. No, the scales aren't going to, like, they're not going to be a breeze. They're going to be a little bit belabored because I have a harder reed. Whatever. But then you know what? After that, I'm going to take it off, put it in here. I'm going to take the other check plus. I'm going to play an etude or two on them. I'm going to play the etude. I'm going to work on them a little bit. Maybe do some articulation studies, whatever. Take that off, put it away. Take your 4th reed I think the 4th reed was a check, just a check. Whatever harder one is left. We're going to take that out. We're going to play an orchestral excerpt on it, or we're going to play like the first page of some concerto or whatever repertoire you're working on. So basically, within the span of an hour and a half, or even an hour. No, in the span of an hour, you can play on 4 completely different reeds. That way they all get the same amount of wear and tear. They all get the same amount of time on the clarinet. So you basically do this over and over and over again. If you have a rehearsal, use one of the reeds for half the rehearsal, another reed for the other half. If you're afraid of sounding bad because your reed is a little hard, then rotate between the 2 reeds that work really well, but then the next day when you're at home practicing where no one hears you, then use the harder reeds. Having a lineup of reeds is the perfect answer to your teacher saying, hey, this reed sounds a little soft. Do you have another reed? I'm always nervous if I ask, do you have another reed? Or how old is that reed? Because a lot of times the answer will be, I don't know, to both. But if your teacher asks you if you have another reed, you can be like, yeah. But you can also say like, well, this one was a little hard yesterday, but it might be good today. And then your teacher will be like, yeah, let's see how it sounds. And if it sounds like crap, then you change to another reed. So get to know your reeds better than your friends. That's really depressing, but keep your friends close, your enemies closer, and your reeds the closest. Do you have another reed?